They say the night hides more than shadows. It hides the truth.
Welcome to Mr. Haunting Whispers, where real crimes, true horrors, and restless spirits speak through the silence. Listen closely, because sometimes the whispers are real.
When I moved into the old apartment on Brookvale Avenue, the first thing I noticed was how quiet it was. No traffic, no neighbors slamming doors. Just the hum of power lines and the whisper of static from my secondhand television. The building had been half empty since a fire 20 years ago. Most of the tenants were elderly or invisible, the kind of people who left no trace except for grocery bags in the hallway and a faint smell of cigarette smoke behind closed doors. I didn't mind. I was a night owl, a freelance video editor who lived on caffeine, cheap noodles, and insomnia. The TV wasn't hooked up to cable, but I liked the background noise. Static made the apartment feel alive. One night around 3:17 a.m., I fell asleep on the couch with the TV still on. When I woke, the static had stopped. Instead, a single faint tone was playing. Steady, electronic, almost like a heartbeat. I rubbed my eyes thinking the HDMI cord had disconnected or something. Then a voice came through. Faint, female, distorted. Channel 93. I frowned, grabbed the remote, and started flipping. The screen jumped from snow to snow until I reached channel 93. At first, it was just darkness. Then faintly, a video began. It looked like surveillance footage. A timestamp in the corner read 03:18:07, matching the time on my clock exactly. I saw a street lamp, a stretch of road I didn't recognize, and a parked car idling at the curb. After about 15 seconds, the car door opened, and a man stepped out wearing a dark coat. He crossed the street. The camera zoomed slightly like someone behind it was following him. Then, just static again. I turned off the TV, half creeped out, but mostly curious. I figured it was an old pirate channel, some forgotten broadcast looped by mistake. But the next night, it happened again. Same voice, same time. Channel 93. This time, the video showed something else. A woman's kitchen. You could hear the faint hum of a refrigerator. She was talking on the phone, pacing near the sink. Then, a knock at the door. She hesitated, walked over, and before she reached the handle, the feed cut to black. The next morning, I checked the local news. A woman on Harper Street, 2 blocks away, had been found unconscious in her home after an apparent break-in. No forced entry, no suspect. That's when I started recording the screen. I told myself it was for curiosity's sake, something to analyze later. But part of me already knew I'd stumbled onto something I shouldn't have. The third night, I waited, and right on cue, 3:17 a.m., the static gave way to that same whisper. Channel 93. This time, the feed showed a gas station, empty except for a lone cashier wiping down the counter. After a few seconds, headlights filled the frame. A van pulled up, its logo blurred. Then static. An hour later, police sirens woke me. When I checked the local feed online, a robbery had just occurred at the Mapleview Gas and Deli. The cashier, the same one from the footage, was in critical condition. I tried calling the station the next morning, but when I described what I'd seen, they hung up. So I tried the landlord instead, asking if anyone else in the building used analog television. He sighed. That unit's been disconnected from the grid for years. Nobody should be getting any channels. When I pressed him, he muttered something I almost didn't catch. You're in 3B, right? That was Henry's old place, the one who recorded the fire. That night I searched online, Brookvale Fire, 2003. There it was. An amateur videographer named Henry Graves had lived in apartment 3B. He'd been editing a documentary when an electrical fault started the blaze. He died trying to retrieve his tapes. The cause was listed as unknown power surge. So that night I unplugged the TV, every cable, every outlet. I even flipped the breaker to cut power entirely. At 3:17 a.m., the screen turned on by itself. No sound this time, just Henry. At least that's who I think it was. His face pale, barely visible in the flicker of static. He mouthed something, but I couldn't hear it. When I leaned closer, a whisper bled through the speakers. "Channel 93 is watching you." The next day, I left for work early just to escape the apartment. When I came home, my phone buzzed. A notification from a number I didn't recognize. It was a video file. Title, record093.mp4. I opened it and froze. It was footage of me from behind, sitting on my couch. Timestamp 03:17:06 from last night. I threw the TV out the window. It hit the pavement 3 stories down, sparks flying. That night I didn't sleep. I sat in the dark staring at my blank phone screen. Then at 3:17 a.m., it lit up again. One notification, a live stream link, channel93.live/Brookvale/3B. I shouldn't have clicked it. It opened to a view of my living room, live, shaky, from the corner ceiling. Except I wasn't in the frame. The couch was empty. The lights were off. Then the camera panned slowly toward the door. A shadow passed beneath it. The doorknob turned. I woke up in daylight. The apartment smelled faintly of burnt plastic. My phone was dead. When I plugged it in, every file, every video, every contact was gone. Except one. A single video titled record_094. It was a shot of a burned apartment, my apartment, time-stamped exactly 1 week ahead. Next Thursday, 3:17 a.m. I moved out that same day. The landlord didn't even look surprised when I handed over the keys. He just said, "You're lucky. Most people don't get a warning." Before I left, I asked him what happened to the tapes Henry Graves recorded. He shrugged. Police never found them. Power company said his equipment overloaded the line, started the fire. Same outlet your TV was plugged into. I live across town now. No TV, no phone, no internet. But every once in a while, around 3 a.m., the air conditioner clicks on by itself, even though it's unplugged. And underneath the hum, I swear I can still hear that voice. Channel 93.
Night driving used to calm me. The hum of the engine, the rhythm of the streetlights sliding past the windshield. It was like breathing with the city. I'd been a taxi driver for 12 years, and I'd seen it all. Or so I thought. It was a Thursday, late autumn, the kind of night that smells like rain and burnt coffee. I was about to end my shift when the dispatcher crackled through. One last pickup, corner of Ash and Miller. Destination, Riverside Cemetery. I laughed. That's a joke, right? A passenger requested your cab by number, he replied. No one ever did that, but the streets were empty and I could use the fare. So I pulled up to the corner. A woman stood under a flickering street lamp, no umbrella, her coat soaked dark at the shoulders. She didn't wave, just looked at the car as if she'd been expecting it. She slid into the back seat without a word. Her perfume, or maybe the rain, smelled faintly of lilac and old paper. Where to? I asked, already knowing the answer. Riverside, she said. Her voice was soft but carried, like she'd practiced saying that one word for a long time. The ride was quiet. City noise faded until all that was left was the steady sweep of wipers and the ticking meter. In the rearview mirror, she didn't move much, just stared out the window at nothing. When I glanced back again, she was looking at me instead. Her eyes weren't threatening, just heavy, like they carried too many memories. I tried to make conversation. Kind of a late visit, huh? Cemeteries closed after 10. She smiled faintly. I'm not visiting. I'm going home. I laughed nervously, thinking she was joking, but she didn't laugh back. I looked ahead again, and the street seemed darker than before, like the headlights couldn't quite reach the pavement. My radio hissed with static. The dispatcher's voice broke through for half a second, garbled like he was underwater. Then silence again. When we passed under the bridge by Hollow Creek, she leaned forward. "Take the old road instead," she whispered. I didn't even remember telling her there was an old road. Most people didn't know about it. It was narrow, full of potholes running alongside the river. No lights, no signs. But something in her tone made it sound like a command more than a request. So, I turned. We drove for maybe 10 minutes without seeing another car. The rain picked up, fog clinging low over the asphalt. I could barely see 2 feet ahead. Then the meter flickered, once, twice, and went dark. So did the clock on the dash. I muttered, tapped it, but nothing. When I looked in the mirror again, the back seat was empty. I pulled over immediately, thinking she'd slipped out when I wasn't looking, but both rear doors were still locked from the inside. The seat was wet, fresh rainwater pooled where she'd been sitting, and on the glass of the back window, there was a faint outline of a hand. Not drawn in dust, pressed there, still dripping. My phone buzzed with a message from dispatch. "Where are you?" Fair waiting at Ash and Miller, I typed back, "Already picked her up." Heading to Riverside, they replied almost instantly. "That call was canceled 10 minutes ago." Nobody there. I looked up. The road in front of me was empty, except for a faint shimmer, like headlights reflecting off water that wasn't there. Then I saw her, standing in the middle of the road, 20 feet ahead, soaked again, eyes fixed on me. I blinked, and she was gone. Just fog. I drove the rest of the way in silence. When I reached the cemetery gates, the rain stopped. The padlock hung open. I left the engine running and stepped out. Cold air pressed against my skin, that same lilac scent drifting past me. A single light burned near the caretaker's office. I walked toward it, unsure what I was looking for. Inside the gatehouse, an old man looked up from his desk. "You lost, son?" "I'm looking for someone," I said. "A woman, about 30, brown coat, long hair." He frowned. "What's her name?" he asked. "I don't know." He studied me for a long moment, then motioned toward the far side of the grounds. "Try the river section. Folks always end up there." I followed the narrow path until I reached the riverbank. Mist hovered just above the grass. That's when I saw it. A headstone half buried in mud, with fresh lilacs laid across it. The engraving was worn but clear enough. Amelia Price, 1987-2012. Beloved daughter. She finally came home. I stepped back, my heart pounding. Because on the windshield of my taxi, parked behind me, I could see a reflection. Someone sitting in the back seat again. I don't remember driving away. All I know is that when I reached the bridge again, the meter blinked back to life, and the fare read $19.87. The year on her stone. I didn't tell anyone. I just finished my shift and went home. A week later, I found something tucked under the passenger mat. A small lilac, perfectly dry, pressed flat like it had been there for years. That night, my dispatcher called. "Strangest thing," he said. "We got another request for your cab." Same pickup spot, same name, Amelia Price. I told him to assign someone else, but around 2:47 a.m., my phone lit up anyway. An address, Ash and Miller, and under it, a message I never sent. On my way. I'm not visiting. I'm going home.
My name is Frank. A year ago, I moved into apartment 7C in the middle of February. One of those buildings that seemed older than the city around it. The kind of place that smelled like dust, plaster, and something faintly metallic that you couldn't quite name. The landlord said I was lucky. Quiet neighbor, he told me. Good walls. No one bothers anyone up here, but he didn't mention the smell. The first night was fine, quiet enough that I could hear the hum of the old fridge and the tick of the wall clock. But around 2:47 a.m., I woke to a soft tapping sound. 3 short taps, a pause, then 2 more. At first, I thought it was the radiator. Old pipes always make noise when they're heating up, but the rhythm was too deliberate. Tap, tap, tap. Pause, tap, tap. Like someone tapping a fingernail on a wall, just behind my headboard. By the second night, I was sure it wasn't the pipes. The tap started again, exactly 2:47 a.m., like clockwork. This time I pressed my ear to the wall. I could hear something behind it, a faint shuffling sound like fabric brushing against concrete. And, this part I can't explain, a breath. Not mine. I moved away and sat in the dark for hours, listening. The tapping stopped around 4 a.m. When I asked my neighbor across the hall, Mrs. Green, if she'd heard anything strange, she just stared for a moment, then said, "7C, huh? That apartment's been empty for years before you came in." She smiled, but her eyes didn't match it. Then she shut her door. That night, I stayed up waiting for it. 2:47 a.m. came and went. Silence. I started to relax. Maybe it was all in my head. Then the tapping came, louder this time, and not just in the wall behind my bed, in the ceiling too. Something was moving above me, slowly, carefully. I turned off the lights and stared up. The plaster ceiling bulged, just slightly, as though something heavy was crawling across it on the inside. Dust fell in tiny trickles, then silence again. Not the comforting kind, the kind that feels like it's waiting. The next morning I called maintenance. A man named Arturo came by with a toolbox. He tapped on the walls, checked the pipes, even climbed into the ceiling vent. Nothing. "No rats," he said. "Maybe building just settling." But when he came down, I noticed his hands were shaking. He didn't meet my eyes. And when he packed up to leave, I caught him glancing toward the corner of the ceiling, the same spot where I'd seen the plaster bulge. He didn't charge me for the visit. He just said, "Don't sleep with your head against that wall anymore." That night I slept on the couch. Still, at 2:47, the sound came. Tapping again, but faster now, almost impatient. Then something new, a soft, scraping sound, like nails, long, dull nails, dragging slowly along the inside of the wall. And a voice, so faint I almost missed it. It whispered, "Move." I moved my couch to the center of the room and didn't sleep at all. Every few minutes I'd hear that same low whisper, always the same word, "Move," sometimes closer, sometimes behind me. By dawn, I couldn't take it anymore. I packed a small bag, went downstairs and waited at the diner across the street until the sun came up. When I finally returned, the hallway outside 7C was filled with maintenance men. 2 were prying open the panel behind my wall. The one I'd said was making noise. I watched from the doorway as the plaster cracked open. The smell hit first. Not decay, but something stale and cold, like old air sealed for years. Then they pulled out what looked like a piece of fabric. No, not fabric. It was a piece of wallpaper, from an older design, maybe from decades ago, and behind it, a small space, just wide enough for someone to crawl through. Arturo turned to the foreman and said, "This wasn't in the blueprints." They shined a flashlight inside. The light only went a few feet, then was swallowed by darkness. Dust swirled, and then something moved. One of the workers screamed and stumbled back. I didn't see what it was, only a hand, small, pale, and wrong, like it had too many knuckles. They sealed the wall that day. No one said a word. I was told to find another unit for my safety. I packed that night. As I was leaving, I noticed something on the inside of my door. Scratched into the paint, faintly like fingernails, were 3 words, "Don't let it out." I moved out the next morning. I don't know what they found in that crawl space. They never told me. But sometimes when I close my eyes, I still hear the tapping, not in my new apartment, in my head, and it's always the same rhythm. Tap, tap, tap. Pause, tap, tap. And right before I fall asleep, I swear I can hear it whisper, "Move."
You've been listening to Mr. Haunting Whispers, where every truth leaves a scar. If the story unsettled you, good. That means you were listening. Subscribe and stay close to the dark, because the next whisper might be for you.